are going to go over text flow options. If you notice, I have my document open and I'm on the page layout tab. Most of what we will be doing in this lesson will be located on this page layout tab. This is just a document that I've cleared out most of the formatting. I have the show hide non-print characters on, just so that you can see some of the things we're going to be doing, because they're going to be behind the scenes of the document, not something you would see in print. But it'll help it so that we can organize our document a little differently. So the first thing I want you to look at is most of what we're doing is going to be in this first box, the page setup. We've gone over margins a little, and we'll use them in a little while. But you know you can set custom margins by clicking custom, putting in the type of margins you want. You can also go to the dialog launcher, and in the box, the dialog box, you can put your margins in there as well. Next thing I want you, orientation. We're going to set our page for landscape. Landscape means you're going to go along the long edge. Portrait is what you're used to seeing. It means your paper is tall. Next is page size. I'm not going to change the page size. Most of the time you want it set for letter. Letter is a standard piece of paper that you're used to working with. Legal is longer. Then there are different types, all the way down to more page settings, where you can actually set how big your paper is. So you could do a custom setting in here. Again, you can also get to that through the dialog launcher. So here, if you wanted to print on a longer piece of paper, this is where you would go, or just breaks. First thing, if you notice, it automatically decides when to move. It rolls over to the next page. If I change the margins, notice how more ends up on the page. Sometimes you want to be able to control where your page starts and stops. There are a couple of things you can do. Okay, notice how the entire page changed as we set the document. We have one lonely little line on page 2. Sometimes you want to control what goes on to the second page. The easiest way to do this is to put your cursor, move your I-beam to where you want your first line of the next page to be. Click the cursor and do a Control-Enter. Notice it says it puts in a page break. Page break means that anything after that point goes to the next page. It doesn't matter where you put a page break. You can put a page break anywhere you want. Shorten things out, put as much as you want on there. If you don't want the page break, backspace or delete at where the page break is. You're going to be able to have to see the non-print characters to be able to do that. You may also go to breaks, and you notice that page is there. The first one, if you click that, it puts in the same page break that we put in with the Control-Enter. That works out well if you just want to make sure a certain text is on a page or kept together. There are other things though you can do with this breaks box. The one thing I want to show you is next page. Next page looks like it does the same thing, calls section break next page, but it has a slightly different feature. When you do this, and I put my cursor here, and let's say I want to change the margins, and we're going to go to the wide margins. You notice how these margins changed, but these didn't. Let me show you the same thing without this in it, the section break. If I just did a page break without the section break, and I go to change the margins, notice how the margins change throughout the entire document. It doesn't matter where it is. If I go in and put in a section break, This is where I want it to be after. A next page section break. And I click in here and change the margins. Everything after the section break will have the original margins. Now, there is something else you can do. Under breaks, there is continuous. Continuous is going to mean that it stays on the same page. Okay, so we're going to put a continuous in there. I'm going to put a couple of continuouses in here. We put a couple of continuouses in here. Now look, this is a quote. Let's say I want my quote on the page, but I want to make the margins different. Now only the section in between the two continuous is changed. Nothing else changes. The things below it don't change. Nothing above it changes. So on the breaks, page just turns something into another page. It'll keep the margin formatting the same. Next page creates a section break and puts it on a new page. And continuous means that it stays on the same page, but you can change the margins in that section without having to change everything else.